Alrighty then, guys. It is Ryan. It's Friday, March 31st at around 11:30. Just jumping on real quick to test everything because we're gonna kick this thing off on Monday. I think. Or I know I keep saying Monday, but trust me, it's gonna be this next Monday. That I'm gonna be on every morning, Monday through Friday at 9. I think I'm gonna have to come up with a new channel because it's Renegade Radio is John and I, and John's not here for a little while because he's got to work. Um, so I don't want to just keep going on here. But then how would you guys know how much you have followed me on the other one? And I'm not good at that internet crap. Like check our Twitter. Look how many followers we have there. I'm not good at it, man. You know what I mean? Like I don't even bother with Instagram. I act like that's new, by the way. That thing came out like 20 years ago. Like, oh, I'm not on that new one. The new one, I'm still on MySpace. It's just Tom and me. But at least he likes all my stuff. But yeah, so starting Monday, going to jump in. I'd say 9 o'clock. We'll try to do like at least an hour or two a day. I wanted to come on today, obviously, because what happened yesterday with Trump, and I know a lot of you guys were writing into a lot of our Renegade stuff went away. In case you didn't notice, like the website and all that stuff, this became like a whole thing. So we're in the middle of trying to get that back, but this is expensive, and so there was no way to really kind of let you guys know where we're going and what we're doing and whatever. So we're going to stick with this YouTube crap for now. The website should be back up shortly. I would say shortly. The streamer, I know a lot of people are bitching about that because that was fun because that's always a 24/7 thing. I mean, but YouTube's the same thing. You just click on it. I don't know why I'm explaining YouTube to people. It's just because I'm so far behind in technology. This newfangled YouTube thing, I found it on the Twitter. I sound like Congress when they were asking questions of the Zuckerberg and people like that. Have you heard of this new app called the Snapchat? What is the Snapchat? They had no clue what apps are, and those are the people in power. Whatever. Anyway, I just figured I was going to jump on today because a few things just I found to be like crazy and also annoying. Obviously, yesterday the big one is they they actually indicted Donald Trump yesterday, which is it's mind-boggling. You know what's really and I know I say this a lot, and I hate to repeat myself, but I really believe that this will help people who have half a brain in their head understand what the mainstream media is doing. I suggest you go anywhere where there are multiple TVs set up right next to each other. Like you go to a bar, go to a gym, wherever, where they have a whole bunch of TVs just side by side by side, and watch the news. I mean, yeah, you'll have to read it, but watch it. Watch what's going on. Look how they're reporting on stuff and how differently, 100% differently it is. You have one side cheering Alvin Bragg yesterday, literally cheering, and then saying, "Oh, but be prepared because a violent left is going to come, or right rather is going to come get him." And then on the other side, you see people like Alan Dershowitz, who was very hardcore liberal for his entire life. I think he voted for Hillary. He's not a Trump supporter, is the point, but through the course of the last few years, the left has kicked him out because he has seen what the left is doing. And it's no see. There's a difference between wanting equality, wanting things equal, and then wanting more than your share. And that's what they've done. The pendulum didn't go back to some sort of middle; it swung hard left, and now they just want everything. So as I'm watching, this last night, I'm seeing one side talk about what a hero this guy is, and there's going to be statues to him someday. And on the other side, I'm hearing like Alan Dershowitz and people that I respect and have seen over the course of my lifetime. And guy's got a pretty good resume, and he's saying this should be impossible. What's going on right now? This is like the odds of you hitting the $1 billion jackpot. One winner, and it's you by numbers you picked. It's really astronomical. This is uncharted territory that we're going in, and also what they did was, they took something that was denied by the New York DA before this guy, and then a federal DA twice, I think. Just said there's not enough there. It's nothing. It is what it is. Alvin Bragg takes Michael Cohen, who used to be Donald Trump's lawyer, the guy who lied and just did time, and he is their key witness. Now, the funny thing was I think it was on Sean Hannity. So the left has never seen this. Sean Hannity, a week ago, after the grand jury had Michael Cohen's lawyer testify. So his lawyer that was defending him when he got the time. And he was saying how Michael Cohen was just saying, look, I'll lie. Tell me what to say. I don't want to go back to jail. I don't want to do any of this. So he was saying that he was told that by his by Michael Cohen. He turns on the TV, a few days ago, and he sees that he's the key witness, and he's saying this and he's saying that, and he's thinking, well, wait a minute, this guy just told me he was going to lie about all that stuff. So he calls, I guess, up and says, hey, everybody, or I'm sorry, he goes to in front of the grand jury and says, hey, this guy is lying. He told me he was going to lie, and this is what he said he was going to lie about. Now, who would you take? Who's word would you take here? Would you take the word of the lawyer of the guy who lied? Okay. But he didn't do anything immoral. He's just a lawyer, and they got to defend everybody. That's their whole rap. That's how, like, I believe his name was Kunstler, used to defend terrorists. Say, well, everybody's entitled to a defense in this country. So okay, but this guy never, as far as I know, never in trouble, whatever. And he looks old, like he's been in the business a little while. He's saying, well, it was my ethical duty to come out and say this, because if I didn't, then I was a party to the crime, and I took an oath to not do this. Like, he was taking it very, very seriously. And he went in front of the grand jury and he told them, the guy's lying. He told me he was going to lie to get out of this. And they didn't care because it's New York. Like, this is where the problem set in. Like, the fact that it jumped this one hurdle is should be a very alarming to everybody. What else should be really alarming is that it's over a made up charge. Like, and whether you think he's guilty or not, it doesn't matter. The charge is basically you paid off a woman, okay, that or a porn star, because you didn't want your wife to find out. They're trying to say he paid off because he didn't want the voters, to find out. At that point, I didn't Trump supposedly say he could shoot somebody outside of his hotel and he'd still have support. I mean, reality was, I don't think anybody would have cared. Did anybody care about Bill Clinton? On the left, they used to tell you to mind your business. If you said, well, Bill Clinton was getting Hummers in the White House as he was on the phone with dignitaries, they'd say, oh, just stop. He did a good job. That's his private life. And with Trump, they find that and he still denies it, by the way. He denies having, this is what I find to be weird on the news. I know that Trump denies having sex with her. I also know that I found article after article after article where Stormy admits she lied. Okay. Stormy lied. Okay. So what she did by taking that money was a crime. I mean, isn't that extortion? That's got to be more than that. So she's saying I didn't have sex with him. He's saying they didn't have sex. He paid her off and people go, well, why did he pay her off? Well, that's what people with money do. Like, when you have that much money, when you're a billionaire, and to shut somebody up, it's going to cost you 130 grand. It's a nuisance lawsuit. It'll cost you more defending it in court than it will by giving her X amount of money. That's why they do these things. I mean, then on top of that, Michael Cohen initially, I guess, said that Trump had no idea and he paid for it, and on and on and on, because I guess he had money. And people go, well, why would he pay for it? Well, that's because he's got money on retainer that he could just spend. Well, God only knows what he really spent it on, but so the fact of the matter is that they jumped that one hurdle is terrifying, because now you're going to have, and this is the first time in history, a president of the United States in handcuffs. Well, they're not sure about the handcuffs, but mugshot. He's getting booked in. He's going to be arrested. That is so dangerous for the country. That is really just mind-boggling that they're able to do this. But it's not, if you put it into perspective. Like, if you put it into perspective like this, if you look at this like you're like kind of like most of the people I hang out with do, and it's like you love your country, okay? Like, I mean, you love it, like and you're brainwashed, okay? Something, but I can be brainwashed about something a lot worse than loving my country. The fact of the matter is, you love your country because you live here. You appreciate loving me just means I appreciate it. But other people don't. Like, I think I told the story once on the air when this was a while ago, but when I worked at this one place, I was working with a young kid, probably in his 20s. And I had said something, or I think on my shirt, I had, like, on the shoulder, it had like an American flag or something. And he said how offensive that was to him, which is just so stupid. You're the only reason you could say that here and not have your head chopped off is because you don't live in one of these countries that pretty much, I don't know, what, 80% of the world. Everybody, they act like it doesn't happen everywhere. It happens. Look at what happened in Australia just during COVID. Everybody tried to act like Australia was open and free, just like us. They locked them down. They arrested them. They put them in camps. I mean, just took their weapons, obviously. Just incredible. But as you're watching, what's going on, the weaponization of this DOJ and how things. Joe Biden allowed them to go to Trump's house, the FBI, and raid it with their guns drawn. By the way, has anybody heard anything about that case anymore? Oh, is it because Joe Biden had that plus 20 in his possession. And they're like, well, if we do anything to Trump, stupid, we're gonna have to do it to you. And once again, you're going into these weird areas. Everybody took stuff. He didn't take stuff that was nuclear secrets. He wasn't taking stuff to sell to the Chinese. Which, if anything, you have evidence on Hunter's laptop that that's exactly what the Bidens are doing, naming them, the brother, the son. I mean, all of them, the widow, naming them. But they don't want to do anything about that. They want to talk about how a guy might have paid a porn star to keep a mouth shut about a rendezvous. Um, and that's it. Like, once again, that's why it's stupid. Oh, he used campaign funds. No, he didn't. They've already proved he didn't do that. That's why the other DAs refused to prosecute. But the other DAs also didn't run on convicting Trump. Like, that's what this guy, Alvin Bragg, ran on, was convicting Trump. I'm going to charge him. I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him. Kind of like I forget what she is. She's high up there. I think she's a DA in New York too. Who that's what she ran on too. I mean, think about people like Omar Talib. We're going to get that mother effer. They're doing this thing that is so anti what this country is that it's mind-boggling. It's just mind-boggling. You don't investigate the person to find a crime. Okay. You have to have a crime first, then you investigate to see who did it. You don't just immediately start checking into people. That's that's not going to end up good for anybody. Everybody's got skeletons, my friends. Some worse than others, but it doesn't matter. That's just not you live in America. You have a right to your freedoms, and just you're not supposed to be harassed by the government. Which, by the way, I believe it was Matt Taibbi and the other guy, I forget his name, I apologize, but he was they were testifying about the Twitter leaks and all that stuff, and I guess the same day the IRS showed up at that dude's house. That's obvious intimidation. Are you kidding me? Are you gonna act like not everybody's terrified of the IRS? They could take everything you got and do, with no mercy, man. You know what I mean? So there's a weaponization of a lot of things going on. We've stepped over a lot of lines. Like I said, back in the olden days when there was a type of respect, did they really expect Donald Trump to come out of Mar-a-Lago like Pacino and Scarface? You know what I mean? Was he going to be sitting at his desk doing a big line of dope, with all top secret information around him, waiting with his guns ready, and he was going to take them all on? I mean, that's stupid. You understand? He's the president of the United States. They allow people, real criminals, to turn themselves in after court. They'll say, okay, well, you're getting 10 years in jail. Sometimes it starts immediately, but other times, like, hey, you got to turn yourself in. How many times have you heard, especially celebrities, they're like, he's going to turn himself in on Tuesday. He's going to turn himself in on Wednesday. He's got all this respect, and yet they sent FBI agents with guns out to Trump's house, and it was all for the pictures. It was all because the left never looks further than the headline. That's how a certain segment of society now is feeling like they're on top of what's going on in the world, is they read the headlines. And they don't realize that, like I was saying earlier, when you watch them all side by side on TV, MSNBC, Fox, CNN, you see how they're framing stuff, how they're talking about, and more importantly, what they're not talking about. Like apparently what would they call that guy? The QAnon shaman, the guy with the the horns and the face paint on January 6th, who basically got shown around after you saw the Tucker Carlson videos. Now, there's a little debate between my friends of, was this how long he was supposed to get, and then he was going to go into the halfway house, or is this new because of the Tucker Carlson thing? And I guess we'll find that out eventually. But they basically didn't really, none of the stories really touched on that part. Just said he's being moved to a halfway house. Now, once again, was that part of the sentence that he'd have to do X amount of time in jail and X amount in a halfway, or has it been adjusted because we saw the truth? That's the other thing too about the January 6th stuff. They're still on the other side. You don't understand. They're calling the people who say, well, yeah, were there a few assholes? Absolutely. And do something? How about this? Those assholes, I say we prosecute to the fullest extent of the law. I don't give a crap. They shouldn't have done. You don't go in there and break windows. You don't go in there and hurt people. You don't. But for the people who just got caught up in it and were stupid, who walked through and stayed in between the velvet ropes and took selfies like idiots, and you got to hit them with a kind of a stupid tax. Well, although, do you? Because on the flip side of this, I can tell you that Alvin Bragg has dropped. What do they say? It's down to under 50%, but felonies to misdemeanors. And by the way, that's a manipulated stat too, because they don't tell you how many he just has refused to prosecute on top of that. So you got to take that number, okay? Lets all those people go, and he does that a lot. And then he takes things that, where people shouldn't get bail, they're getting bail when it should be a higher charge. He's just not charging them. He's just got to have compassion for everyone, except for the president and people on the right. You know, amazing that that's what's going on. But you see once again on the other side, he's going to have a statue right next to George Floyd someday. There's going to be an Alvin Bragg statue, and I think that other people, like once again, like I'm a Trump supporter, yes, but it's not about Trump. It's about the idea. Once again, it's not, and everybody actually gets a radical idea. What's so radical about wanting your country to do well? I don't know. I would like us to be number one in production and manufacturing. I think that if we were leading the world like with Silicon Valley and the tech issue world and all that stuff, yeah, I mean, of course, it brings money. It brings happiness with it. It just does. When people are successful, you're happier. When you get to travel more and you get to whatever. But it brings a lot of good to the country. Instead, this is how bad things are that nobody's paying attention to, because now we're all talking about Trump getting arrested, and obviously it's a big story. But you're not talking about how in the last 2 weeks China has made deals with Russia, Brazil, and I think Iran, and they're all going to be buying energy and trading with each other, but they're not using the American dollar anymore. Like that, my friends, that is terrifying. Because that's not just a war. Okay, we'll go to a war. That's like, I think what was it, Argentina, where the people were using money literally as toilet paper. It was just floating around on the ground. It wasn't worth anything. And when the world, big countries, stop using the dollar, and other people see that and start dealing, because they want to deal with China and they're not dealing in the dollar. Well, I got to deal in their money. That's a massive hit we're taking. Like there's quite a few, and instead, of you would think this government, you would think this president, this administration would come out and address these things. They were showing videos the other day of the border, right? And nobody's saying, by the way, nobody's saying that this is wrong. Like these are made up. This is movies. This is real shots of the border, and there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people just running over now. They're not respecting the law. They're not, wait. They're tired of waiting, so they're just coming over in surges when they want to, and that's being pushed by the criminals and the cartels. And we know that's when when you talk about the cartels, they almost go, "Oh, stop." What do you mean, "Oh, stop"? Do you know that's just because you don't see it because you live here in Massachusetts doesn't mean like down there it's not really happening. That's really happening. So closing your eyes to this and acting, "Oh, here you go again with the cartels." Well, yeah, here we go, because they're very strong. That they're like a military. And they're evil. It's a crime ring. They're pushing fentanyl and slavery and sex slavery, and just it's horrible. But you have idiots that just don't want to hear it, man. Oh, something, those people need asylum. Well, here's the question with that, and this drives me crazy with this asylum nonsense. If it was like 100 people coming over from Haiti, you'd say, look, really technically this isn't how asylum works. You're supposed to go to the closest country, blah blah blah. But okay, you 100 people need help. Come on in, we'll help you. You don't then say to every single country on the planet, hey, if you want something, just come here because we'll give it to you, because we were running out of resources for the amount of people we had. Like that's why you'd hear things were running out of money, services and programs are running out of money. We don't have enough. Too many people, man. Too many people. And now you've opened the door and you've added, at least in the last 2 years, at least 4 or 5 million, at least, and that's not going to stop. And that's people who eat. That's people who, are going to be using up the resources we need. We didn't have enough, but you have an administration that thinks it's racist of you to say, well, something, we only have enough right now for us. Like otherwise the country is going to go belly up and nobody wants that. But then you're considered to be a right-wing lunatic. Like that's what I was saying a little earlier. This whole thing of what is considered to be, far right is stupid, man. Like it's once again wanting your country to do well, wanting your economy to do well, wanting to have a strong military because you realize nobody f's around with you when they can't. When they can, they take advantage of you. When you have a strong military, like Trump showed, they don't do stuff. Where did Putin invade during Trump's reign? Huh? Oh, nowhere. But in Obama's reign, he did, and then Biden's reign. Once again, that sounds like collusion with Russia somehow. How is it that 2 Democratic presidents have let Russia take over certain countries, and yet when Donald Trump was in, they actually stopped and were talking about how broke they were because of the sanctions? Like, but common sense, like once again, like something like that. Well, Trump's a puppeter. You know, it will drive you crazy. Like I once again, somebody said to me, "What do you think about transsexuals?" And I said, here's the funny thing. I don't think about transsexuals, because I'm not one. I'm not into it. But as far as do they have rights? Of course they have rights. Do they have more rights than anyone else? No, they don't. I don't want a woman stripper going and shaking her stuff in front of a 5-year-old kid. So I don't want a transsexual doing it either. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of simple. It's not because I'm anti-trans, which is stupid. But I talked about this the other day. What they've done now with this whole trans thing, especially I guess tomorrow is like the big violent day for trans, or allowing trans to shoot people or something. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on, because I think today is something with trans, because the president of the United States, who still hasn't gone to Palestine, Ohio, um, put out a tweet saying Happy Trans Day, and you've had such a tough struggle and all this stuff. I still, I think Jean Claude Van Damme, or whatever her name is, the press secretary, came out the other day, and she was doing the same thing, and said that she wanted to like express her something to I'll find it, to the trans people, because they've had such a hard time as of late. And it struck me as a little odd, because the just I think that day, or the day before, the trans person went in and killed 3 children and 3 adults in that church, in that school. Where's the tweet? Where was that tweet? That is is so mind-boggling, that this is what the country is. We went from literally having a guy that said America first. So, and somehow people, construed that into being racist somehow. But really, once again, it was, well, we have to take care of ourselves so we could take care of others. You know, the host has to be strong, otherwise everybody dies. And they can't wrap their heads around that, and they made it racist somehow. So once again, wearing an American flag, or the "Don't Tread on Me" thing, now they're saying is racist. They made the AOK sign racist. I don't even get that one, to be honest with you. I grew up in like I'd say I was in my teens in like the 80s. We didn't think like this. I mean, like, everybody who talks about, oh, racist, racist, racist. You guys are so much more racist now, I think, than it really was back then. I'm sure, back in the 50s, 60s, different thing. But my generation was cool with pretty much everybody. You didn't really judge people, on the way they looked. I mean, otherwise you were a dick, you know. Kind of took people for what. Now, here's the thing that was always funny. Like, let's say you met a Spanish guy, or a Muslim guy, or an African American guy that you just didn't like. Well, I'm not going to pretend I like him either, just because he's black or Muslim or Spanish. Every ethnicity has the assholes in them. You know what I mean? That just happens to be a Spanish asshole. You know what I mean? And not saying all Spanish people are assholes, but we got them too. I mean, everybody does. So I mean, but they made everything. You can't say anything because they'll say you're anti something. Like, here's what the president of the United States of America put out 2 hours ago on Transgender Day of Visibility. That's a real day, everybody. We want you to know that we see you just as you are, made in the image of God and deserving of dignity, respect, and support. We'll never stop working to create a world where you won't have to be brave just to be yourself. Transgendered people deserve love, dignity, and respect. Joe Biden. Um, Okay, once again, I think most people, and I think the transgender population, the legitimate one, I think they said was like 0.003 of the population. Now it's become more popular for a while. I know that sounds silly, but they have trends of things like this. And now the people who have Munchausen, or just have this need to be noticed, or they're just psychopaths, will just cling to whatever is going on at the time. So now you have your Buffalo Bills. You know what I mean? They got people that are dressing up and killing people, and then cutting like a little skin suit out of them, you know. But they're identifying as trans, like that girl that just shot up that Christian school. You know what I mean? Like, what? Like, people are treating it like the school deserved it, because I guess the Catholic Church doesn't approve of transgender. Well, they don't approve of. I know this new pope. I don't know. I think he's changed everything anyway. But I think it's okay for everything. But in the beginning, yeah, it said man shouldn't lay with man, woman shouldn't lay with woman, whatever. Because you remember, sex wasn't supposed to be fun. It was supposed to be used to procreate. Okay, two guys can't procreate. Sorry, and I know everybody's gonna get mad, but reality is, I've been around for a little bit, and realistically, two guys have never gotten each other pregnant. Never. And I would be willing to put a sizable bet that if you went through the homosexual community and asked guys that were homosexual there for however long and say, "Were you ever afraid of getting pregnant?" You know, they'll all say no except for the ones who already have a mental illness. It's just you can't say things that are just fact now without people like going all you're anti this and anti that. I believe everybody deserves respect, but once again, you can't you know jam your lifestyle down everybody's throat. I don't agree with that with anybody. You know what I mean? Like I have a lot of stray friends, something, and that are married or girlfriends. I know nothing about their sex lives. Nothing. Like we don't talk about it. It's inappropriate. We're not friends on that type of level. And I think I have any friends on that type of level. You know what I mean? Like, because what are you, 14 years old, 15 years old? No, yeah, go look, you shut up. You're a grown man. Cut it out. You know what I mean? And if you're still doing that, you're one of those asshole people I was talking about that everybody has in their cliques. You got to grow up a little bit. But when I see like people who are trying to be offended, it annoys me. Like there was an obvious man, kind of dressed like a woman who was working at this store, and anytime somebody said like, "Excuse me, sir," or "Thank you, sir," or whatever, "Hey, man," this person would yell and scream. That's what they were looking for. You know what I mean? Like that, it's that attention. They love that attention. And I'm not saying transsexuals love that attention. I'm saying people like that. It doesn't matter what it is. They like, being offended. They like being the one that can, oh my God, did you just, oh, cut it out, you moral superior idiot. You know what I mean? Like, and you're not, and most of them aren't, and those are the ones, once again, we see now what happens when you have an identity appointed administration. Okay. Everybody from Pete Buttigieg, to Jean Claude Van, whatever her name is. And it just, it's not, and here's the thing, it's not because he's gay or she's a lesbian. Who cares? They stink at their jobs. Like, look what happens during the entire time with Buttigieg. First, you had the shortage, the supply chain thing was just crazy. Then, which is still going on, you just don't hear about it as much. Then the baby food thing, didn't hear that much about it. I mean, then obviously the train, the chemical crash there in Palestine, just amazing. The things that have gone on. A normal person would have lost their job, but he's not there because he was qualified, never has been. It's like you take Marty Walsh. What's Marty Walsh qualified for? I know, he ran, unions, whatever. Like that's just whatever. You know what I mean? Like in all reality, he did a really shitty job as mayor of Boston. And here's how you can prove it. Okay, when you go back, I don't know, a few years ago, right? Now I lived up here, and we're watching the rest of the country have riot after riot after riot with the Antifa and the BLM stuff, and you're just watching these big cities and these cops getting attacked and things being burnt and blah blah blah. So it was also during the COVID times. So there was supposed to be a rally on a Saturday, and it was like open up the state rally type of thing. Got a permit, whole bit. I was thinking of going. And I think it was on Friday, the day before it was due, they said they're canceling that rally because, they'll antagonize people and all this other stuff. It's like, what? And COVID, everybody, and COVID. You're like, oh, okay, but really that's the point of this. The COVID thing isn't really taking off like you said, and we're open up the state. But they canceled it, so nobody showed up. Now, in the same breath, BLM asked for a permit to do a rally where they know Antifa has been showing up because they've been showing up throughout the country and burning down cities. And Marty Walsh approved it. Like, that's like, what more do you need? What more do you need? What more do you need to be drummed out of a business because you do not know how to make decisions? Like, that's the type of, like, I would have fired a football coach, who didn't take his time out, and let time run out because he forgot he had two left or he wanted to save them because he thought he could use them in the next quarter. Just that guy would be fired. But Marty Walsh allowing the city, because then you looked at what happened at Newberry Street and just how many cops were hurt. And that is when that infamous scene that for some reason nobody else wants to remember, but where I guess it was BLM and Antifa, they surrounded the Boston police station. And this is after I think that whole thing had happened where they had taken over a police precinct in another and some area in another part of the country. And they surrounded them and they made the cops come out and kneel in front of the crowd. Now, people said they were kneeling in solidarity with them. Well, that's what you saw. Okay. What I saw was a bunch of cops come out and kneel before a group of people, like an angry group of people, a violent group of people. And it looked like the cops gave up.
to me. That's what I'm saying because I'm sorry, I hate to sound like a JO here, but I don't care what color you are. If you're coming in and threatening the cops, as long as the cops are, let's put it this way, and this is where the thin line is, because you're trusting them to enforce the laws that we all want enforced, but respect, the rights of people as they're doing it. Okay. That's the line because, like, you're allowed to protest. Absolutely. You're not allowed to be violent. Okay. And once you do, violence begets violence because, you can't be passive with a violent person, especially when you're in a situation like that. So you don't come out and you kneel before them. You come out, 150 strong, wearing, hats, bats, and do what you got to do, and clear the way, get restore order. That's what you're paid to do: restore order, not give up. But I'm sure that came down from the top too, because there was this one cop in particular that they were showing that just didn't want to do it, and they had to come over and like kind of talk to him and go, "Hey, you better kneel down, otherwise they're going to kill us all." Just and that happened under Marty Walsh's reign. And then what happens? Biden, puts him, and gets him a nice cushy gig. I think he's leaving that to go for the private sector now. Will make the real money. But it's just like you allowed bond. It seems to me. I'm not saying it happened, but it does seem like a payoff. Like hey, we need the country to be burning so people don't want to vote for Trump. That's what that was about, by the way, everybody. That was the real insurrection, the intimidation that was used for months and months and months against average Americans, and I don't care what color you are or what sexuality you are or anything you are. If you are just a law-abiding regular person, that was against you. That was totally against you, and that was a power play. That was showing, hey, we can blow up your things, we could take your police stations, we can do whatever we want whenever we want. That was a power play, and there was no there was no real kickback. You know what I mean? And I think because there was an arrangement made, said, okay, well, I'll give you the city, and what do I get? Oh, okay. Well, after you get in, I get a cushy gig and can start making a few million. Eh, Sad as it is to say, man, that's the way I look at it. But again, like I said, talking about the Trump thing, which I do want to get back to. There's not much to say right now. They're saying, I guess he may turn himself in. Now it depends on which station you listen to. This is why, again, I say to watch more than one, because it is so silly the way they do things. They were talking about how he's already agreed to turn himself in on Tuesday. Okay, on CNN. Okay, him and his lawyers are going to fly in, and okay. And then, I turn on Fox, like, yeah, Wednesday night, Trump is going to. Well, who's right here? You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? Like, how are quote unquote news stations, and not just one show on that station, all of them? That's why it's all brainwashing. I'll tell you, if you watch more than 1 hour news a day, you're being brainwashed. And me, I'm probably brainwashed because I like, well, I'm trying to resist, but I like Tucker Carlson. I think he's pretty objective. And I can't stand Hannity anymore. I can't get through more. I usually will try to give him about 5 minutes if I can. I'll try to get through the monologue if I can. But when he starts talking about how he wears blue jeans, and I guess his mom was a security officer or something, like a prison guard, or just we get it. It's like that. To me, reminds me of when Joe Biden talks about his childhood. The guy's what, 80 years old? So he's talking about, he had a bad day once 76 and a half years ago. He remembers it well too. It was such a bitch because my dad came home from work. So you see that? That's that trying to identify with that nonsense. It drives you absolutely crazy, badass crazy. But like I said, when you're watching these stations side by side, they're giving you two. There's one story, and there's only either two sides or 500. It depends on which station you're watching. I mean, like I said, on CNN, here's the thing. On CNN, they don't say, oh, Trump just got indicted for the Stormy Daniels thing. They say possibly 32 charges about business fraud. That's the way they're reporting it. If you go over to CNN right now, they're talking about up to 30 some odd charges. And it's for business fraud and things that, Trump had done that Michael Cohen is the only one that knows, and he's going to talk about it. What that's not what I'm hearing everywhere else. And I mean, the problem with everywhere else too is that it's all corrupt. Like the BBC, I used to think was, well, they're not here, so they're probably going to be no, they're bought off too. You know what I mean? That's a joke. Reuters, a joke. AP, a joke. NPR, a joke. Like I think what's funny about NPR is everybody knows what that is. that it's government funded, propaganda radio, and if it's nothing that goes against, you know, their viewpoints. It's everything is in a lockstep. Once again, much like CNN, MSNBC, I'd say Fox to a certain extent, but Fox has changed. Fox has really changed, and that's why I think the only reason Tucker has a job is because how many people follow him and watch him. Because I think Hannity is containable because his ego needs to be on TV. So I know he's been around forever and he's been on the radio forever and blah blah blah. But TV is a different animal. I think everybody knows it. Plus, you probably get a good amount of money. You're only working, an hour. You know, get a lot of time off. But he's just, I think he's unlistenable anymore with the patting himself on the back and just it's just, you know, I can't deal with him. And then he gets the same 7 guests over and over. I don't care what Jim Jordan has to say about this. Didn't care what Jim Jordan had to say about anything, to be quite honest with you. I mean, like I said, that whole I just, came off the line working look that he has with his tie a little askew and his little collars rolled up. It's, it's ridiculous. His little cuffs. Hey, yeah, I was just hard at work, everybody. Were you? Were you really though? Or did you just do that 5 seconds before the cameras turned on, buddy? Like it's just when you see them being interviewed in the Capitol, very funny. It's in the rotunda, and sometimes like when they have a long shot, you'll see that there's like 20 of them, like politicians, and each of them are standing in front of one's at CNN, one's MSNBC, one's just and what they do is like they'll each give an interview and then move over one and then move over one and move over one, and they know where their people are. They know where the MSNBCs and the ABCs of the world are, so they just work their little circuits. That's why you don't hear about half of them. Like Dick Durbin is not going to be on Fox. You know, Newsmax, by the way, I thought was going to be a great contender for Fox, but the problem is they went over the top. They just went too over. See, they're just too over the top the other way, though. Like MSNBC denies everything and protects the liberals and blah 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 blah. But I think to a certain extent, Newsmax does the same thing with the GOP, and the GOP, by the way, should be exposed as either being totally taken over or as rhinos or paid rhinos. Because nobody there has a backbone, apparently. Like nobody has a backbone. And I'll say the same thing about the Democrats, because think about how important it would have been if when Donald Trump got indicted, you had somebody big, in the Democratic Party, whether it be, let's say, even Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, somebody who has a grudge, say, hey, everybody, something, I get it. You don't like them, but that ain't right. We can't do that. We can't start doing that because that's not what this republic was built on. Where everything's being weaponized now, and we shouldn't do that. He didn't murder anybody. We know that. It's not like it's a real charge. This is silly, So it's like trying to get Al Capone for taxes, But you don't wreck the integrity of the office of the president by doing this. And like the world is I mean, if you look today online, the world is reacting just like we're crazy. Just like what happened to America. Like we were number one how many years ago? And now all of a sudden people are saying, what happened to us? Well, what happened to us when we elected, the enemy. We elected a very weak, guy who is a puppet, who literally is a puppet. That's why before talking about a mass shooting, he's excused for talking about ice cream. He came out and he did that ridiculous thing where he's talking about, they told me there was ice cream. He's trying to be a charming old man, and you're just not. You're a dirtbag that watched your kid shower. Like, you're a pig. Sorry, everybody. I have strong views on that. There's no excuse for a father showering with his daughter, at that age. So much so that she felt uncomfortable with it. Like, that's just creepy. And to have that go through other people too, like that's, you know, I don't know. They got issues. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing that would annoy me. But imagine Trump coming out before something. It's kind of like, although I got to say, they gave George Bush the pass on this too. George Bush, before the cameras were on, and I think this was 9/11. I guess he was talking to the cameras. He's like, yeah, we're gonna get them, and they're gonna rue the day they ever went up against America, and blah blah blah. And then, like, he kind of looks around and sees like the cameras off, and he goes, "Now watch this shot," because he was playing golf, right? And they let him get away with it, which is just weird because it kind of shows you, it was a boys' club of these certain people that we kind of trusted blindly, for what reasons? Because I mean, whatever. I don't here. I'll go on the record as far as this Biden thing. I don't want to go into World War III. Okay, so if we could put my vote down as no, I'm all about that, because right now the situation that I see is we're already fighting. Basically, we've exchanged bombs with Iran last week. I don't know what's going on because they haven't talked about it again since. So we know that's going on. We know, I think today, Russia came out and said, look, they're countering America's involvement in the Ukraine, right? So they're acknowledging now, before it was kind of, hey, it's Russia versus the Ukraine, everybody. Um, and now Russia's saying, let's cut the shit. It's Russia versus, the Ukraine and, funded by America. So we're taking on Russia. China, has already started to make their moves, and once again, whether it be financially, which very smart and strong moves. I mean, terrifyingly smart moves because it hurts us severely, and that's going to be very bad. And I hope we can avoid that. I don't know how. I don't know how, and I don't know if anybody's really thinking about it. I think we've elected somebody who agreed to just turn power over. Before COVID, if you remember this, I know I sound like a mental patient when I say this, but I believe it was Bill Gates and people like that was saying that the world is overpopulated and we needed some sort of plague or whatever. It's a pandemic to kind of wash everybody away. You know, they also talk about a power surge or switch, like meaning, okay, for the last X amount of years, America's been a top dog and, you were able to manufacture stuff and you had your own, you were energy independent and whatever. That's going away now and we're giving it all to China. And for some reason you go along with it. Like, oh, that because think about COVID, right? I was reading today, and this came from a semi-reliable source. I mean, I've been around for about 20, 30 years. And they said that people now are convinced that more people died of the COVID vaccine than died of COVID. Now, here's the crazy part about numbers like that. They called everything COVID for a few years. Remember, like there was like the flu had killed, and I don't know the number. I'm just throwing a number out here, but like 500,000 people every year. And then during COVID, it killed 6 people for those few years. But everything was COVID. Everything just went up to COVID. So these numbers are so effed. There's no way to really get to the bottom of it. I think you know the stories I've heard of people just dropping dead, and yeah, that's bizarre. I mean, and if the one thing they had, if I were a detective, if I were like Columbo or on NYPD Blue, I would have to think, what are these things? Like, yes, they're all throughout the country, and some of them in different countries. What do they all have in common, though? What's the one thing they all had in common? And if it's a shot, once again, don't have to be too smart to figure this one out. But what happened during that time? For some reason, and I don't believe we actually did it, by the way. For some reason, they were able to tell, and not just America, but the world to stop. Like we stopped. The world literally stopped. That you could. I mean, to be honest with you, like John and I, we still did the show every day. We lived our lives like it was normal, but it's not like we have the over the top lifestyle anyway. You know what I'm saying? It's not like we're going out to eat every night and whatever. So, to me, I didn't really notice much. I still did what I wanted to do and it was what it was. But when, you saw, other countries like especially Australia, Canada, really abusing their people and taking away these certain rights and then in the bigger scope of things, getting into bizarre skirmishes or backing different people or whatever to where it's not to our benefit. And you can kind of see right off the bat it's not to our benefit. And they'll say, well, this is how ballsy they're getting. They'll now not deny that it's not to help America, but it's to help the world. It's for the greater good, everybody. Hey, it takes a village. You know, it helps the world, you selfish F. Um, yeah, but that means our country gets less. Like we become less. Like we can be treated like the people in China or you'll see people, you know, sit up real quick when they start taking real stuff away. Like I said, this punk I worked with and said he didn't care because I don't think I finished the story, but he saw the flag on my thing. I don't care. I don't care. He said, it's just a rock under my feet, man. It's just a rock under my feet. And I'm thinking, look, you want to be poet. If you want a different rock, you moron, and you stole something, they could chop your hand off. You know what I mean? You flirt with somebody's wife, they're gonna pop your eyes out. I mean, just like we saw people being burned alive. We saw people being drowned. I mean, like I see people get their heads chopped off. Are you kidding me? Does that not put a value on what we have here? But apparently not. It's more important to worry about where men that want to be women piss like that. It's more important to send armed guards, well, I say guards, but armed FBI agents to an ex-president's home. It's more important to feel like somehow you have some moral superiority to a guy who had this country running. And by the way, this is the problem with Trump. They've imagine being him, right? You're having a good life, whatever, billionaire. I guess it's hard to imagine, but famous TV guy making a lot of dough, and everybody loves you. Like they do. I guess some people don't, but even when he go on SNL and dance, people loved him, thought he was hilarious. Ah, ha, ha, billionaire that can make fun of himself. It's great. To then having to be on the defense slash offense 24/7 for what, 6, 7 years now? I mean, just the eventually it's gonna be like, holy crap, man. Think about what he did. He would sign peace agreements with countries that you'd never think were gonna sign peace agreements, and they didn't cover it. They just acted like, oh, whatever. Yeah, when he moved the embassy in Jerusalem or to Jerusalem, they said it was gonna cost billions. It cost half a million. And everybody was saying how beautiful it was and how quickly he did it. Because it wasn't, hey, it's gonna take 10 years. It's gonna take 6 months. Let's go. It just he did things like the Right to Try Act. He did all these phenomenal things and just doesn't get the credit. And it's because I have liberal friends and I try, well, it's hard to say. It's an effort to still be friends with them. Because to be honest with you, it's just irritating. It's just irritating. It's just I can't understand how they don't get it. And I understand now on the flip side of that, people could say, well, they feel the same way about you. Yeah, but you know something, once again, I'm sorry. If you tell me, you know, being against killing babies after they're born, okay, is wrong, well, then I guess I'm wrong. You know what I mean? I'm wrong. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You believe that killing that doesn't happen all the time. If it happens once, it's too much. It shouldn't be legal. Just no, you don't do that. Not to a healthy baby. No, what are you doing? Not even to and to a baby that wasn't. Yeah, just I mean, once again, just sick. They're sick people. They want to sexualize children, and this is. You know who I feel bad for? I feel bad for the homosexual community that has been around for a long time, and people who just have dignity. Because I remember as I was growing up, when homosexuality really was, I don't want to say new because it was never new, but it was new as far as being popular or being talked about. Um, and they would say stuff like, "Well, we're just regular people. I just love differently than you. I love a man instead of a woman. That's all. That's the only difference. But I can raise a child. I go to work. I'm a good son. I love my parents. I mean, And you'd say, well, that's true when you think about it. The only difference is that. And then they'd say, and it's not. People try to act like homosexuals are pedophiles. We're not pedophiles. And you're like, that's right. Now look at what these people are doing. These people want to dress up in thongs and look like Cher in a If I Could Turn Back Time video and twerk in front of children and have them put dollars in their crotch area. Like, just what are you talking about? You know, having these books where two men are blowing each other and acting like, well, that's love, everybody. This is craziness. But that's what one side really believes. I mean, so I don't know. Like I said, I wanted to get on here and I guess talk about the Trump thing a little bit. It's there's just not much going on. We know he's charged. We know it's bullshit. We know it shouldn't stick. But will it? It's New York, man. I would definitely go for a change of venue, but I think the judges up there. I mean, it's New York is bluer than Massachusetts, if that makes sense. Like if you get that reference, you get that reference. Like it is just so much bluer. Like I'm from New Jersey, which is blue as hell in the northern part, and then the central and southern is where common sense I think kicks in. But just like you go to New York though, and the mentality isn't what's fair. It's how do I get what I want? Like meaning, is it fair to charge Trump? No. But do you hate Donald Trump? Oh yeah, absolutely. He should go to jail, and yeah, we should charge him. There you go. There's the difference. And they actually had people, the grand jury. Grand jury is not. I like the grand jury. It's usually some dirtbags, that couldn't get out of jury duty and got picked for this. And they're like, holy crap! For the last 2 months, I had to listen to this. How do we make it stop? Yes, all right, fine, yeah, charge him. Who cares? Like, but a lot of them, once again, are really blue, loyal Democrats that hate Trump for whatever reason, because the left did something that was pretty smart, and they villainized Trump and his supporters. Like we didn't. It wasn't just like, hey, they're our opponent. They're the enemy, and they really came after it that way. So, but I don't know. Like I said, I wanted to come on. I think we got the mics working right. I'm going to try to work on a phone number. We're going to start coming on Mondays. And we'll do that from 9 a.m. to I'm going to say 10 or 11. It depends on the day, really. But yeah, like I said, hopefully it'll be more show-like. And we could tell people. I'm not sure if I'm going to continue to do it on this station because once again, this is really a Renegade thing, and it's only Renegade when it's John and I. But I guess it's getting, and I don't want it to be total political. I like politics, don't get me wrong, and I could rant about it forever, trust me. But, I don't want it to be totally, because it's just us talking. It's not like a real show yet. You know what I mean? Like, we're still waiting on the other thing. You know what I mean? But and I just figure I can't. How do you not talk about what's going on? Like what the crazy. The other thing I know is kind of stupid to bring up now, especially after those two topics. I mean, hey, bro, you're talking about pretty much the end of the world, World War III, open borders, blah blah blah. Hey, what about text etiquette? I just wanted to say one thing that bothers me when people text is when you don't know when it's the end of the text. You know what I mean? Like, like if you're talking to somebody, you'll go like, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, what's up? Nothing, blah blah." All right, and you just kind of both kind of, all right, man. I gotta head out of here. I'll talk to you later. You know, but then some people just don't do that. They just don't say anything. It's just, and then it's just over. So you got to just think to yourself, every last thing you say, you almost gotta, you just say it as an ending, like, all right, well, how you doing? All right, well, take care then. You know, hey, how are things going? All right, have a good day. That's how you do it. All right, so I'm gonna get out of here once again. I think everything's working. We should have a phone number, and I'll put that out because I'd rather. That's what I was getting to before. I'm just rambling, but um, I'd like to get you guys more involved. Obviously, the text line we could use again, and we can get a. I'm sure we could get a phone number or something. Like I said, and hopefully we won't have to do this long because Johnny will be back. We'll be doing Renegade, so we'll see. But until then, I don't know. Look out for notifications from this stuff because maybe I'll try to get a different station or name whatever channel, and we'll go from there. But all right, thanks guys for listening. Have a great weekend. By the way, it is what, March 31st. So I will see you in April. All right, I'll talk to you later, guys.